Okay, this is it. this is it. Hopefully this is the last one. After this video, I will have successfully caught up with making videos about everything I've read so far this year. It only took me till the 25th of April to get this done. I've really slowed down on the reading the last little while, so from here I can really slow down on the videos, unless you have ideas, because I'll make your ideas if you have any. Shoot them through. Okay, this time I did bother to check. The last one I mentioned was the big chunky Vietnam War book. So if I have a look, sorry, I'm on my phone. After that, the next book I read, The Expansion Project. Give me a second. This one, I picked it up because honestly, I just liked the cover. I thought the cover was sick. It was really interesting. It gave me the TV show, I don't know if you've seen it, Severance. It really gave me Severance vibes. Tom Crowley, a mid-level employee at Cat Meadow Business Park, experiences a sort of unraveling when his 8-year-old child goes missing during the Bring Your Daughter to Work Day, except it is probable even, that she was never actually there. That's about like half the synopsis in this. I won't read anymore because I feel like anyone wants to go into this knowing absolutely nothing. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. I feel like setting something up that sounds like Severance is a big shoe to fill, because even I didn't like the second season of Severance. Like, the first season was amazing, the second season, So that's The Expansion Project. I'm going to skip a couple here because I logged cookbooks just so that I knew that I had gone through them, and I knew if I was going to find a recipe that I liked, that I would have seen it in there already. Okay, I can't find the next one. The next one is Remain, or Remains? Let me check. Remain, by Nicholas Sparks and M. Night Shyamalan. Now, M. Night Shyamalan is the guy behind like The Sixth Sense and a whole bunch of other movies. Old, the weird one on the beach where they go into the tent and the 6-year-olds come out. Anyway, I picked it up basically because M. Night Shyamalan had something to do with it, which means it's basically guaranteed to get made into a movie. And if I'm going to see it, which I am hoping to see it, I would like to have read it first. So I picked it up basically as soon as I saw that it was out. Really similar to The Expansion Project, to be honest, in that it was kind of mid. I feel like there's a really specific kind of fiction book that I get and that I enjoy, and I haven't actually figured it out for myself what sort of fiction book that is yet. I am working on it. I'll figure it out eventually, but for right now I'm kind of just like anything that grabs my attention, like this one or Remain. I should give it a shot. To be fair, I did like Remain more than The Expansion Project. I did end up caring about the characters a lot more, but I did get about halfway through the book and sort of just forced myself to finish it, more out of like a morbid curiosity. I wasn't like heavily invested. I didn't care about what happened to the characters. I just wanted to know. You know what I mean? Like, what happened one way or the other, I wasn't gonna affect me. I was just like, I don't want to put the book down and have no idea. I feel like I could have basically just flipped to the last chapter of the book and read it, but I would hate to do that, and I wouldn't feel like I had read it. Okay, the next book I read was Go One More by Nick Bare. Not gonna lie, I think I know where this book is. Right now I don't have the energy to get it because it's like in the back of the bookshelf and I've got them like double stacked, so I'd have to move like 20 books to get to this one, and really, I hate to say it, it's not worth it. I feel like listening to a lot of Eckhart Tolle speeches and reading The Untethered Soul recently put me on a bit of a spin with self-development books and like motivation books, and I was like, yeah, they're really cool. I really enjoy them. And then I read this one and I was like, I really like Nick Bare. I mean, look at the guy. Look at the guy. Crazy entrepreneur, athlete, like ex-military, businessman, all that sort of stuff. Online influencer type dude, and his message is really good. And it was kind of, I've watched so many of his videos and I've listened to so many of his podcasts that it's kind of like a David Attenborough situation for me, where I was reading the book and I 100% could hear his voice as I was reading it, so that was cool. But like, the content of the book sucked. Like, you know what I mean, you can basically, it's one of the books where you could basically boil down every chapter into a sentence, read those sentences, and boom, you're done. Like, that's kind of all you would really need. Maybe it works for someone. Maybe it could actually work really well for someone who doesn't listen to him speak that much. Like, picking up this book, having no idea who he is, might work really well, because it seems like the sort of stuff that he says quite often, which is fair enough. Like, if you're going to write a book, it's going to be about stuff that you know well. but it just like coming off the back of reading a self-development book or a spiritual book, I suppose, like The Untethered Soul, and listening to people like Eckhart Tolle, this kind of feels like a bit of a regression that I didn't really feel like I was up for. So didn't hate it, didn't love it, just didn't feel like it was for me, but I wouldn't say it's a bad book. Okay, the next book I read, Ship of Magic. First book in a trilogy, I think, by Robin Hobb, The Live Ship Traders. This was long. This book is thick. It was like, it felt like Game of Thrones thick. I don't know if people like Game of Thrones like this or the other way around, or what the deal is. Again, it's fiction books, they're hit and miss with me, and this just felt like a little bit more of a miss, especially because I liked most of it, and then what happened in the last chapter to me kind of felt like they had only just made the decision that they were going to turn it into a trilogy, or they were going to write a sequel, either way. Because it felt like some stuff just came out of left field. The characters are really, really, really good. Like, you do care about the characters in it, which was cool. Doesn't happen a ton with me. Like I mentioned in Remain, I kind of didn't care what happened at all to the characters. I just wanted to know what happened. This one I did care. Malta is... there's a character, Malta, if you've read it, you know, in this one, who was like wild and strange. I would be interested if I could just read the chapters about Malta in the next couple of books. I would probably give that a crack, but I'm not going to go and buy these massive chunky books just to read like this tiny little sliver. And also it crosses over, which I thought was really cool. I did enjoy that part of it, because it's like you'll read the chapters about Kenneth? I can't remember. There's a pirate basically, and you'll read the first chapter is about him, and you think it's all to do with him initially, and then you'll read the next chapter is about Althea, and then they're completely different storylines, and you sort of, at some point while you're reading, you can sort of guess like, okay, here's how they're going to cross over, and seeing how that's done is really cool. So like, I didn't love it, but just like, it's so big, there's so many other things that I would prefer to read, that I'm probably not going to keep going with the series, because they are huge books, massive time commitments, and just like, I need to split up. I can't just keep reading those massive books. So much so that I actually read books in between this one. One of them was this book. This one. The In-Between by Hadley. I am not going to butcher that last name, sorry. There you go. The Unforgettable Encounters During Life's Final Moments. This book, was going to swear, this book was amazing. I loved this book. So the author was a hospice nurse. Really like interesting backstory that I won't spoil. Non-fiction. I don't know if you can spoil non-fiction. I won't go into detail about her backstory, but like, didn't have things super, super easy, and just sort of bunch of circumstances put her to where she is, and she really made the most of it. And hearing the stories and how much she cares, so like I said, hospice nurse, how much she cared for her patients and the things that she would do for them was just really nice. And just like, I read this when I was in Dunsborough, so I read this when I was down south, and it was just like the humanity in the book was really nice, because I was kind of like, when I was down there, I was a little isolated, and I just really enjoyed this book. Being like, reading about like the human connection side of stuff was just like, as weird as it sounds when you're talking about a hospice situation, like, it was so comforting to read about like the human connection, how she dealt with different situations that she found herself in. I loved that book. Just next time I need to just grab all these books out at once, but I had no idea which ones I had read and where they all were, but they're all in different places. Anyway, the next one I read, on the nuclear kick, Going Nuclear by Tim Gregory. This book rocked. This was really cool. I really enjoyed this one as well. The dude, hang on, there we go. Guys, come on. That's, you think like nuclear chemist, he's kind of what pops in your head. Anyway, Going Nuclear. Is it? Yeah, Going Nuclear, How the Atom Will Save the World. This was perfect. Like, the author is funny, he cracks jokes throughout, but it's like really well informed. A huge list of references and like further reading that you can do, which is exactly what I'm after, because like I said in the last couple of videos, this is kind of my shtick at the minute. Reading nuclear and or Vietnam War books is kind of where I'm at. This might be my favourite one so far. I actually sent messages / emails to the author asking for suggested reading afterwards, because he doesn't have like a huge presence or anything online. So I was like, maybe he'll actually reply. I doubt it, but I gave it a shot, because it's really hard to find people talking about nuclear energy as opposed to war and bombs, and like you can find tons of books on Hiroshima or Chernobyl. I want to know about energy and sustainability and that sort of stuff. So that is Going Nuclear by Tim Gregory. God, I'm so lazy. Sorry, there is another one that was out there where I grabbed. I saw it. I saw it when I grabbed this. When I grabbed this, there was another one right next to it. I was like, no, I'm pretty sure I've gone over that already. Anyway, the next one, Breaking Waves. Let me see what the subtitle is. Discovery, Healing, and Inspiration in the Open Water. I really like this one. From the title, it seems kind of neutral, really female-oriented book. Not in a bad way. I actually really enjoyed those. This is gonna sound even worse than anything else I've said. There's like a birthing story and lots of that sort of stuff in this book that was actually really nice. But again, similar to the In Between, I read it when I was down south and kind of isolated, and there's lots of parts of this book that are about human connection, which was really nice. I enjoyed it a lot. Very reassuring and very human. Makes you really want to like find your people and connect with your people, because hearing the stories, she'll tell this random story of this one lady does this one absolutely wild thing, and just like we have this one connection is the water and all of that sort of stuff, which sounds hokey and silly, and maybe it is, but it's my kind of hokey and silly and like touching and nice and warm, and I enjoyed it. And also the cover, I love the cover. Up next we have like a kind of a side tangent of mine that I've been on, which you start reading about nuclear power and then you start reading about energy, and then at the moment a lot of people who talk about energy also talk about AI. So I read AI Valley by Gary Rivlin. It's kind of, I don't want to say it's taking over my non-fiction stuff, but I have been listening to a lot of stuff about it, because after studying what I studied and hearing how much power and how much energy AI systems use and the data centers and all that, I did kind of think of it as like the big bad. Not a huge fan of AI. Still am not a huge fan of AI. But this book was basically just like going into detail, and it was really more interesting actually than I thought it would be, going into detail about the backstories of all these companies. Weirdly incestuous industry. Like everyone seems to have worked with everyone at some point. Like it talks about the founding of Anthropic and OpenAI, and how they would get funding from all these different companies, and then it spent a little while talking about just like tech in general, because like obviously AI Valley reference to Silicon Valley, and it's talking about how all these big massive companies like Google and Microsoft and the things that they've been doing to try and make sure they're not falling behind or anything like that. It actually makes reference to Apple, specifically saying that they kind of were falling behind at some point, and then they just like switch and make a pivot or buy a whole company or just like merge with a whole company to sort of bring themselves up to speed. Weirdly fascinating. I personally didn't actually realize how many different like AI companies there are at the minute. Ridiculous. It talked about how much money was getting invested into the AI companies, how the not patents. There's something in the book. There's a point in the book where it talks about, I think it wasn't LLCs, but it was basically talking about how many companies are getting started up. And at one point in time, it was unreal. It was like every single day in Silicon Valley, there was like companies popping up out of nowhere where their whole purpose was AI. Definitely didn't make me feel like better or happier or less of a doomer about AI, but it was definitely interesting. Then I read Eating Animals by me and these people's last names. I swear, I'm going to say Jonathan. Me and old mate Jonathan. This book was rough. I've read a lot of books now about the ethics of eating animals and animal products, and it's really getting to me. I'm not vegan, I'm not vegetarian, but I am significantly closer than I ever have been in my life. I eat way less meat, and I basically can't eat meat without thinking about everything behind it. I haven't watched Dominion in a long time, but if you haven't watched it, I unfortunately would recommend it, because you won't be able to eat like eggs or basically any animal product without thinking of something in there. This book made me the closest I have ever been to going full vegan or full vegetarian. Don't be surprised if it happens soon. I should be clear, that is not to say it's a bad book, that is to say it's an outstanding book. It hurts. It's not great. Then I read Martyr by Kaveh Akbar. This is for a book club. I got started, the book club, it's an online book club. It doesn't technically have to be read until like basically the end of May, but I am a slow reader, so I wanted to make sure that I got it done so I could like participate in the chat about the book throughout the month. I really enjoyed this book, but it did feel like I wanted more. Like it was not, not a bad book at all. Like it was a great book, but just like I could have hung out there for so much longer. There were parts in it where it was talking about the main character, and so the main character is sober, and there were parts of it that sort of the focus on the main character's struggles and how they feel really reminded me of A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara, which a lot of people online say is like trauma porn, which is a bit, it's a bit heavy, it's a bit too much. I enjoyed A Little Life, so that, explains why I enjoyed this, but I also wanted to hang out a little longer. Spoiler, if you're going to read it, maybe skip ahead 20-30 seconds. But basically, the main character thinks his mum died, turns out she hasn't, and then very quickly after he meets her, she does. And it was like, I could have hung out in that space between where he meets her and where she passes away. I could have hung out there for a lot longer than the book lets you. But it was only like a couple hundred pages, I'm pretty sure. So like for how big it was, really good book. Definitely recommend. It does focus on like some human connection stuff, but it doesn't really pull on your heartstrings because it's a fiction title. Not to take anything away from it, it still does amazing things with the time that you give it. Just, I feel like when you compare it to like the non-fiction reads like The In-Between that I mentioned earlier, it can't really hold up to that as much. Okay, one more, and then we're up to date, finally. So, The Kick that I mentioned earlier, Nuclear Age, by, these last names, I'm gonna call them Serhii. Sorry guys, I do not speak Russian, unfortunately. I only realized when I was basically finished this one that it's the same guy that wrote the Russia-Ukrainian War, which is a book I read a little while ago when I was in Romania, that I really, really, really enjoyed. He takes intensely complex issues and like breaks them down and makes them really enjoyable to read. For what this is, which I haven't actually said yet, it basically focuses on the development and the political side of nuclear bombs. So it talks a lot about the Manhattan Project, about Oppenheimer, his team, the maneuverings, the ins, the outs, the letters that were sent from different scientists to different politicians to get things happening. The fact that Stalin didn't think much of atom bombs or hydrogen bombs at the start. He sort of just like blew it off, didn't think anything. Anyway, that's a bit in the weeds. It's about the development of the bomb. And for a book about the development of the bomb, I liked it a lot more than I thought I would, because like I mentioned when I was talking about going nuclear, I'm really more focused and interested in learning about the energy side of things. So if you're going to read a book about the development of the nuclear bomb, this is outstanding. I was kind of sitting back waiting for it to be more about the energy though. And it's one of those books where the titles of the chapters really don't help you out. Like it's got the titles of the chapters, Star of David, Mad Men, Smiling Buddha, Star Wars, The Fall of the Nuclear Colossus. Like from those sorts of books, from those sorts of chapter headings, I was like, every single time I started a new chapter, I was like, please let this one focus more on energy than the bomb. And about halfway through the book, I realized that's just not going to happen. So I had to lean in to it just being interesting about nuclear bombs and not energy, because I just want to know about nuclear energy. But it's so hard because now I'm at the point where if I want to learn more, the only books that I can really find about it are like university level textbooks, which either are impossible to find, incredibly expensive, or both. So I'm kind of in a spot at the minute where it's like I'll Google it and I can't find much. So maybe I have to lean harder into the Vietnam War stuff, because there's a billion books that I could be reading about that, but I do find this so much more interesting. I just don't know where to find the right books that I'm chasing. I'm really not interested in paying a couple $100 for a book about nuclear energy. As much as I want to learn more about it, I just don't have the money. Anyway, now we're up to date. I'm not going to talk about what I'm reading right this second, because maybe I'll pump out another video, probably not as soon as I've been pumping these ones out, because it's been like, this has been weighing on me. I just wanted to get these videos done, get them out, so that we're on the same page and you know roughly what I've been looking at lately. And if you hear me talking about trying to find like a nuclear energy book and getting frustrated, you know why. If you hear me talking about random stupid AI stuff, you know why. Or if you hear me saying that, hey, I'm going to forget the environmental stuff that I've studied and I'm going to go and be a hospice nurse, now you know why. Not really, I have actually thought about doing that for quite a while. Anyway, that's a whole nother thing and nothing to do with books, which is what I'm supposed to be talking about at the minute. So I'm going to leave it there. Thank you for watching if you have watched this long, and hopefully I will catch you in another one of these sometime sort of soon.